Mesachta Menochos Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, 8 lines from the top. Taner Rabbanan. So we spoke about giving Maisa from some in figs. Figs could be small and fresh figs are big. Fresh figs, it has a mila that it's fresh. Dry figs has a mila that it lasts longer, but it's not as fresh. You ever saw the figs is very fat, but when you dry it, it's very small. So that's what we're going to talk about now. One could take off maisa mit te'enim. Te'enim means from the grubber, fresh figs, al ha-gregoris, on the dried figs, you can take it off. Before we had a shaila, because the big figs, you're taking off, it's more volume. You're giving more than 10%, it's 20%. But it says the Gemara, no, it's all right. You can give from the fat figs for the small figs. In a place where it's the derech to take the regular fresh figs and make it dry, because you want it to last a long time. Especially in selling it in the stores, you can't have these fresh figs. It'll last you a day or two and are like in the garbage. But like this, when you dry them, you can sell them for a long time. In fact, I'm sorry, but you cannot take off Gregoris, dried figs, altainim, for the fresh figs, because the Gregoris are tiny, so you're not giving the full maisa. The other way around, you're giving more, but you're saying, okay, it doesn't matter, it's not really more because you're going to dry it. But you can't take off from the dried ones for the fresh ones, because the dry ones is too small.
Wasn't a place a special scale how much you give?
It doesn't go by the scale. It goes by the scale. He wants to say, look at the size.
If it goes in the hand, whatever goes in the hand, this is the amount, right?
This is by kmitza. No, we're not talking about kmitza. Now we're talking about maisa.
So maisa, there's a special scale how much to give maisa?
No, a tenth. Yeah.
Suppose I can look if they dry or not.
Because the dry is tiny. So in the measurement,
yeah, but if you have 100,
no, but it's
if you have 100
measurement.
figs and you take,
You also go according to the way it's measured. The meter of a fresh fig is at least twice the size of a dry fig.
Yeah, they say we don't do it on weight, we don't do it on anything except for a number. So it's the same
Number,
amount.
no, yeah, but over here we do go according to the weight. Sure, the size, not the weight, the size.
Because the
The
weight,
size-
the weight,
no,
is
the
no
weight,
problem.
yeah. We're going according to the size. The size, a Gergeris is much smaller than a fresh
But
fig.
if goes according to weight.
But he says the reverse, to take the taina for the Gergeris, even though it's bigger, what you say, but he's then eventually going to turn it in to a fig, so it's really the same thing.
Yeah, but mice is not 10%. You get 100 figs, you give 10 figs. Where dry is the same amount, 10 of 10.
Of dry,
Micer is 10%. Yeah.
10%. When you're giving a fresh fig, we say it's not really, we don't look at it as a fresh fig because it's the place where they turn it into dry figs. So therefore it is considered as maisa. But to take off dry figs, right now, you're supposed to look at now. And you're looking at now, the dry fig is much smaller than the fresh fig.
If it's 100 figs and you have to give 10 for micer, it doesn't matter if they're big or small.
No, if it's 100 fresh figs,
Right.
not dry, then you give 10% of that, sure. Which is 10, 100%. But we're talking about you're taking 1 out of 10, but which one are you using? A dry fig for 10 fresh ones. That's not a 10th.
Oh, that's okay, Kurt.
So he says, but being that you look at it now. Okay, so Amar. So he says, even a place where they have a minute to make from these fresh figs, dry figs, but you look at now, right now, it's a dry fig versus a fresh fig. It's not the same size. We take off maisa from the fresh figs on the dry figs only in a place where they take the fresh figs, mizragel, they're accustomed to make the fresh figs into dry. Only in a place where they have the custom to take off to make from the fresh dry. But in a place where they don't have the minute to take a fresh fig and make it dry, then you cannot use a fresh fig as maisa for the dry one because it's more than maisa. Says what is the case talking about? If there is a kohen That makim shein aragel, even if it's a place where they don't have the custom
To change.
to make it into dry figs, amai loy, why shouldn't you give them the fresh figs? Why can't you use the fresh fig for the maisa, even if it's not a place where they make it into dry figs? But now we learned in the Mishnah, you give them the best. And we say fresh is the best. Dry is only that it should, the Milo dry should last long. But right now, if he's going to eat it now, it's definitely better to give him a fresh fig. He's around. It's only for a kain, elop sheet and like a kain. Only we're talking about the shtakin kain. There's no kain. And that's why we said if there's no kain, the only you have to dry it out. So that should last when the kain comes back. So if it's a place where they're accustomed to make dry figs, it's good. If not, it's a problem. So look, it says in the Sefer of the Loi. I'm sorry, it says in the Sefer of the Loi, we don't take off dry figs for fresh ones. Even in a place where they take the fresh figs and they turn it into the dry figs, so it should be a 10. Says no, you have to look at now. They eat like a kohen, but if there is no kohen, why shouldn't he be able to use it? He's definitely the fresh is for sure going to be dry because it's going to go into the garbage. So why shouldn't there be a good mice from a dry fig for the fresh? The fresh is 100% going to become dry. The kohen is not around. But now we learned in the Mishnah. If there's no kohen, you take even from the fresh ones as a meiser. So you take off from the fresh ones now. It's sure the kohen is a kohen.
Take off the fresh ones and then dry it.
Huh?
And then give it to the kohen dry.
Right, but he's saying you say you can't take a dry one for the fresh ones.
Right.
So he's asking why not? If there's no kohen, the fresh ones have no value. You're looking at the fresh ones for the future that you're going to dry it, that you're going to be able to give it to the kohen. So it should be a 10.
You can take meiser with it wet and then have them dried and then give it to the kohen based on the measurements of the wet.
You're saying make it again, blow it up again.
No, not blow it up again.
Then what?
Take it while it's meiser and then dry it out. So the volume that you took when it was moist, you dry it out and then give it to the kohen, whatever it was.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying. You can do it before you even dry it out. Why do we say we can't give off mice even before you dry it out? It's meant to be dried out. There's no kain there. Says you have to say that, and we learned that in a place there's no kain, you take even from the yafa, and I'm sorry, you take from not from the yafa, you take not from the goigares, take from the dry ones. That's what you give to the kain. Only the reason why we can't give goigares as mice for the fresh ones, because the kohen is here, he can eat the fresh ones. So you can't give a small one. It's not an equal. It's much less than a tenth. Says the Gemara, what's going on here? But Reisha, you gave a whole pirush. The Leica kohen, there's no kohen. But say for you can explain the Ika kohen. Does that make sense? Says the Gemara, yeah, yes. Reisha, the Leica kohen. We say yes, the Ika kohen. The Reisha will learn there's no kohen, and the Sefer will learn there is a kohen.
He came late. That kohen.
Huh?
He came late.
Yeah. Right. Our Papa said, from here we learn out. It's better to take a Mishnah and divide the Mishnah, the Reisha and the Sefer, that they're talking about two different cases, than saying the Reisha is one Tana and the second one is a second Tana. And we could have learned that way, because we could learn that the Reisha follows the Tanakam of the Mishnah that says when there is no kayin, you give him from the dried figs. That's the minute. And the Sefer is we could say, it goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says you always give from the fresh. Whatever it is. That's how Rabbi Yehuda says. You never give from the dry. We could have learned that way, but we refused to learn that way. We said that from the ratio of the Mishnah is talking about that there was no kayin. So that's why you had to give from the dry, and therefore it's a tenth is good. And the second was talking about there was a kohen. Okay. The lashis, be patient. All menachos are needed in lukewarm water, not cold, not hot. Hot is a problem because once it's cooked, it's no good. Part of it is cooked, and it's very hard to deal with it. lina, like we do Mayim Shalanu. Why do we do Mayim Shalanu? It should be very cold. But there's a problem with by matzah we want it to be very cold. But there's a problem with kneading the dough because it stays pieces. It's very cold. It doesn't connect. It says that the pieces of dough, when it's very cold, it doesn't glue together well. You have to work harder, and it doesn't glue together. That's why by Menochos, which is not matzahs, we want it to be smooth and nice, the best. For mincha curb, we want it the best. So therefore, we do them in warm water. We have to be careful; it shouldn't become common stick. Even if the kmitza became common stick, nothing is allowed to become common stick. Shenama. Where's the marker that the whole mincha has to be guarded from chametz even before the kmitza? Because it says kol mincha asher takiv Hashem lo yisas chametz. From the lashon asher takiv Hashem is Araya is talking about before the kmitza, when which you will be makiv to Hashem. It's going on the Allah's love. Kol mincha means the whole mincha, right? But how do we know that's before the kmitza? Even before the kmitza, you have to watch from becoming chametz. Because Hashem Takil Hashem means that you will be makiv. It's not makiv. That's later. That means even before the kmitza, you have to watch from becoming chametz. The chayiv alishasa, and one is chayiv separate malchus for kneading valerichasa and for forming the dough valafiyasa and baking the dough. From where do we know that the shiyari, the leftovers of the mincha, if it becomes chametz the b'leisa said, all we had was a pasuk that before the kmitza you have to watch it from becoming chametz. But how about later after you took off the kmitza, the shayim, it's not allowed to become chametz? From where do we know that? It says it says in the pasuk you should not bake chametz your part. Afilu chelka meaning even the chelik that after the kmitza that the kahanim get to eat, that's the shayim. Lo yisaf chametz cannot be baked chametz. Is this pasuk coming to teach us that? And you look at the Tanya. We need like we learned in the Braisa. What do we learn in the Braisa? So it says loy safa chametz. What is the pasuk of loy safa chametz coming to teach us? It already said all the whole mincha should not become chametz. So that includes any action, it's including even baking. Because it says already I would have thought that he should be chayiv only one for all the ma'isa of the hachana of chametz. So why did the Torah single out comes the pasuk and teaches us loisaf chametz? The reason why the Torah singled out loisa afia, that afia bachlal is included in the law of lois hasa chametz. It was included. I went before. It says afia bichlal. Afia was already included in the pasuk of kol mincha lois hasa chametz. Why did you have to? Why did you single out baking? To compare all the actions of the preparation of the mincha to teach us ma afia b'yochad shehi ma'aseh yichidei. Just like the baking itself is a single ma'isa on its own. When you have its own law of loisasa chametz, afani avi, so too I'll include lishasa, barichasa, the kneading and the forming of the mincha, the chol ma'aseh yichidei. Each one shabah, any ma'isa, for every single ma'isa will be chayiv a separate malchus. Says the Gemara Chol Ma'aseh Yichidi. So the Gemara wants to know what does it mean Chol Ma'aseh Yichidi. What are you coming to tell us with these words? Ve'isuya Kituv Shu Ma'aseh Yichidi. Kituv is the two perushim. Kituv is either you put egg on the flour, that should be better, or water, and others say that you could break it up into pieces so it should bake better. That's Rabbeinu Gershom. Rabbeinu Gershom says. No, that's Kam Mincha. And you break it up into small pieces. I don't know why it's better. He doesn't say because of bacon. I thought it was because of bacon. Yeah, but here he says
It's fancier, more fancy.
okay. He doesn't say what's the reason. But here on the first finish is you add water or egg on it to make it nicer. Okay, we learned that he's chayiv on the kneading, on the forming, and the kituf b'fnei atzma on its own. And it's a big chiddush here because once it was chametz, you chayiv for the isra of chametz. Once it was baked, so but it's already chametz. You say no for the kneading, you also chayiv for chametz. That's Tais is saying that's the chiddush here. Even though it was already chametz from before, and you're still going to be chayiv again for the kneading, for the shen chametz. I mean, you're saying for the kneading, you also chayiv on the chametz.
So what does it mean to make
Four separate malchus. Or it's a carbon, yes. Four separate. Talking your mother. Hanan mechalkam. So you see, he's chayiv for each and every one. So how could you say this pasuk is coming to teach us for that the leftover of the mincha is not allowed to become chametz like Rish Lakish? If we needed it, we said we need this pasuk to tell us for each and every one you chayiv a separate malchus, a separate lav. Says we said we learned out only from the word chalkam that the shirayim has to be guarded from becoming chametz. The lois of chametz is telling us that for each malacha for preparation for this mincha, you're going to be chayiv a separate isur. Maybe the whole pasuk is come to tell you that, like Rish Lakish, lois of chametz is come to tell you that it's only for the shirayim. How do you know he's come to tell you for each and every one you're going to be chayiv? So in Cain, if so, if you only want to say about the shirayim should not become chametz, that's what the pasuk is telling us. It should have said chalkam, the part of the shirayim which is the leftover that belongs to the kohanim to eat. Let's say off a chametz, but it doesn't say that way. But the pasuk says first let's off a chametz, and then it says chalkam. So it's mashma. It's two separate things. One is to teach us obviously Shabbat Tarte. One is to teach us that for every malacha, for the preparation for the mincha, you chayiv, and one is to tell you for the shirayim you chayiv. You have to be careful that it shouldn't become chametz. In fact, you might have afiyah the partner barachmana lechayiv chada. Says the Gemara, let us say that only on the baking the Torah is going to be mechayiv you, and Enoch, all the other ones. L'chayiv chada kula, you should only be chayiv one for all of them. How do you know? The Torah says b'fei shonim b'negei ta'afiyah. How do you know to say also for the kneading is a separate alav and for the forming? How do you know that? Because this loisafa was already included in the pasuk of loisasa chometz. So it's a chometz. Yotzim in our cloud, and it was singled out from the cloud. To teach us. Not only to teach us about itself, is he come to teach us that it came out, it was singled out. He's coming to teach us on the cloud that for each and every one that you're going to be chayiv a separate lav. In fact, let us say, why do you say it's you're learning davar shayiv a klal, a yotzim in a klal? When you have a klal or prat, you can learn two ways. You can say it's something that was in the klal. And then the Torah said it and singled out one of them, which was already included in the klal, to teach us that you chayv all of them. Maybe learn klal uprat, ein klal ela masha befrat. So he says, say leisa says a klal, leisa alpha is a prat, klal uprat, ein klal ela masha befrat. So you have the klal, and then you have a prat. So the prat limits the klal that to tell you that afiyah in. Only for baking, you're going to be chayiv lav. But all the other maisim is not included in the azara. And I'll say, no, you don't get malchus. He says, look, this klal and the prat are far apart. The klal is in Chumash Vayikra. Loisas chametz. I saw it before Where is it? In Vayikra Beis. And the pasuk of Lesafa is in Tzav. It's further out. So when you have a klal uprat, which are so far apart, we don't say klal uprat ein bechlal al masha befrat. Must Ravada is the kasha, really? You don't say that. Rabbi Kedi, others say it was Kedi who said it. Or Kedi means we don't know. When it's a klal uprat which are distant from one another, you don't say the rule of klal uprat. But time we learned in the Braisa, when it gave to a sir chatas of a melech or of a nasi, it says v'shachat eisnu v'kayim asher yishchatz ha'ila lefnei Hashem chatasu. It says you should shacht it in the same place where you shacht the oila, where heichan oila nishchates. Where is the oila nishchet? It's often. So from there we learn out that the seer of a nasi is slaughtered in the tzafon, is slaughtered in the north. Do we learn it out from that pasuk of a shachat oisai, which is a mayikah dalit? We already learned it out from Seis Hachatos. In the same place where you shach ta'ila, you shach ta'chatos. So, what do I need to see Nasi to teach us Yatza to write that it should be slaughtered itself? It's a sir chatos. By kachim, in order to say that it becomes possible, the Torah has to say it twice. So that's why we said it a second time to teach us that if the sir nasi was not geshachten in the tzafin, it will be possible. Says the Gemara, are you going to say that's why they singled out the chatas nasi to teach us that the shechita has to be b'tzafin, and if not, it's going to be possible? Or maybe perhaps saying Allah shezeton b'tzafin ve'ein acheton b'tzafin. Maybe he's come to teach us that only a chatas of a nasi has to be b'tzafin, while all the other chatayis do not have to be b'tzafin. Talmud Leiner says, no, we have a third pasuk. It says, you should shach the chatas in the place where you shach the oila. So this is already a cloud for all over. L'chol chatayis shetunas b'tzafin, that all chatayis have to be b'tzafin. So you had one pasuk for sir nasi. Then you had a pasuk, sir nasi is a chatas, that has to be b'tzafin. Then you had a pasuk that already the chatas has to be in the same place of a oila b'tzafin. So we asked, so we said, maybe he's come to teach us that only a sir nasi is b'tzafin and all the other ones not. So we have a third pasuk, b'shakat sachatas. But the time of the Kosher Achmana, the whole reason is because it says b'shakat sachatas. Only because there's a third pasuk that tells us that chatas has to be slaughtered b'tzafin. But if we wouldn't have the third pasuk, I would have said shezeh that the chatas nasi throwing b'tzafin. You would say only a chatas nasi and not any other carbon. Why not? Why would I think you have a befinish pasuk? The second pasuk says in the place where you shech the oila tishachat chatas. So why would I think from the second pasuk it only means the sir of a nasi? La mishum the hava klal uprat, only because it was a klal uprat. The pasuk in Pashat Tzav is a klal that all the chatois have to be in tzafin. Okay, and that was the klal. And then you had a prat about in Pashat Tzav that a sir nasi, the chatas of a nasi has to be in tzafin. So I would say, when you have a klal or prat, ein b'chal al mash b'prat.
Even though it's far away,
That's what the kasha is. How did you answer? Why did I think that only a nasi should be a b'tzafin and not only a regular chatas? Even though there's a pasuk that says b'makam asher tishchat ha'ila tishachet ha'chatas, he says because that was the klal. Then came the prat of a sir nasi that it has to be b'tzafin. So limited the klal that not every chatas, only the chatas of a nasi. But even though the one from the klal was in Tzav and the prat was in Vayikra, was far apart. So you see, even if it's a far apart klal prat, you do ein b'chal elamash b'prat. Maskil Ravashi is the kasha high klal pratu. Is this a klal prat? Pratu klalu. It's the reverse. Which one came first? The sir nasi in Vayikra. that it has to be slaughtered b'tzafin. And then as the klal in Tzav came, so that's prat and klal. V'nasa klal meisel ala prat. When you have a klal that comes after the prat, it adds.
Two clouds. Sure.
It adds on the prat. Not only is it nasi, but even more. You add much more. So how can you say you limited it only to sir nasi? It says only you're right. The Tana of the Braisa, he had a problem with the word oisei that's written by Chatas Nasi. It says v'shachat oisei b'mekayim asher yishuv zayla v'achin kama. And this is what the kavanah was. Maybe that it says the word oy by Chatas Nasi is to tell us einoi is only to tell us that if you don't do it in Tzafin, it's going to be puzzle. Ela shadafke kam Chatas etom b'tzafin. Vein acher ton tzafin. I would say davke kam Chatas has to be b'tzafin. And no other, meaning the carbon chatas of anasi, but no other carbon. Because the Torah wrote oisai. Oisai means only it, only the shachtai say only the seer nasi. That's why we needed a third pasuk to tell us that even every other carbon. We'll stop over here.